journey to learn more about writing success together. So thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Lauren Moore, and with me is Kayleen the Big Cheese Williams. This show is brought to you by Flight of the Reaper by Scott Moon and J.N. Chaney. And tonight we're talking about strategies for funding your book production costs on Kickstarter. Our guest is a #1 Amazon best-selling author, has been called the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction, and has been catching attention in the indie author space for his recent success on Kickstarter. On the first day of his campaign launch, he met his funding goal and raised over $6,000 to cover the book production costs for Volume 3 of his graphic novel series, Flying Sparks. Now, less than a week later, he's raised nearly $10,000, well over his initial goal, and tonight he's here to tell us exactly how he did it. So welcome back to the show, Jon.
Hey, Lauren and Kayleen. It's good to be back. I'm so excited. And I'm so happy. What a great week it's been. It's been out of control. This is by far the best launch I've had. The first 3 launches I had did around 3,000 each time. So for some reason, I was able to get and capture everybody to do double. And I totally did it via a gimmick to get my audience excited. And I don't know that it's replicatable for other people, but maybe it'll give you an idea of maybe a different creative way you can do something also. And I'm going to tease it right there and let you guys talk and then let you imagine what I actually did.
That is awesome. We're excited to hear about this gimmick. And I'm excited for today's show because I think, even if we don't have graphic novels and that's not what we're trying to fund on Kickstarter, we're going to pick up tips that we can use for marketing on and off Kickstarter, just marketing in general. I know it's going to apply to our books. I'm really eager to learn something new tonight.
Yeah, a lot of people are crowdfunding books on Kickstarter to great success. I got to call out my buddy Robert Crucy, who just did his Counterfeit Sorcerer. He did a 5-book series, and he raised $13,000, which pays for all of his editing costs and covers and all that. So you can do it with books too. It's very doable, and you can reach about the same levels. And I'm definitely going to be campaigning on Kickstarter for a novel next year, early next year. So these strategies will work for anywhere else. Now, I'm on my 4th Kickstarter campaign. So I've got a mailing list of people who have backed my prior Kickstarters, which gives me a nice leg up. And that is exactly what I used to be able to make sure this funded on day 1. And at that point, I'm just relaxed and everything else is gravy at that point where I'm just having fun with this. So that was the big thing up front. I used a campaign. And if you have an author mailing list, you can do this too, but you definitely want to grow a mailing list or some sort or a social media of some sort to be able to mine that group and be able to get them to come in. And so it's much easier when it's a repeat customer on the platform that you're on. So I used that for Kickstarter this time, and I hit them with several emails up front. I prepped them about a month in advance saying, hey guys, I'm going to be launching a Kickstarter very soon. Here's the draft cover art, and I sent a copy of the cover. But I didn't have the colors done at the time. It was just the line art on it so that you get a outline of my female character, Meta Girl, and showed them exactly what's going on with that and to get them hyped about the project. After that, I reminded them about 2 weeks out that the Kickstarter's coming real soon. Get ready. And then about 3 days before, I did one more and I said, hey guys, we're just around the corner. And actually in this one, I gave them a link to my Kickstarter preview, which I had the whole page already built and all that. And I said, what do you think? Is there anything that's missing? Do you want anything? So I get a little engagement with them, see who's hanging out there. And I also had a button on my mailer that said commit to backing. So I had some people actually physically commit to backing, which is some engagement. So they're actually thinking about it and actually touching a button and processing more than just reading an email and letting it go. When you get that extra step, you get somebody a lot more committed towards what you're doing. This is just a marketing tactic 101 right there. If somebody's actually willing to move for what you're doing, you're doing a little better. And this works in any sort of sales environment. So if you're trying to get somebody to sell something door to door, like say you're selling iPhone cases, and you want to say, hey, will you check out these iPhone cases? If you get the person to invite you inside and go to the table with you, you're more likely to sell something to them than if you're just standing at the door. It's the same sort of principle, but online with email. So I did that. And then day of course, I sent out my email reminder again So everybody had that going on. So that's the bare bones back end aspect of the marketing that's very easy to replicate. That it takes a few times of running these because you have to build that mailing list up of subscribers, no matter what you're doing. But once you get there, you'll be able to utilize that and mine that on repeat, and you'll have a steady group of customers as long as you put out a good product those last 3 times who will come back for you.
So start out with a mailing list, even if it's small, and keep on
Correct.
building on it, reaching out to your audience. And once you get a project, then tell them in advance, here's my idea. I'm excited about it. Here's why I'm passionate about it. If you have images, show up that image. And then in the days leading up to your launch, you're reaching out to them again. Maybe it's a question, maybe it's an offer, but you're trying to get them engaged and trying to get them on your team and ready for that launch. I like that. So what you said that as a salesperson, getting someone to
move or do something, engage, let's call it. Yeah.
Yeah. Invite them invite you into their house. What would that look like in an email form? Your audience being able to engage with you over an email.
So basically my email had a landing page. So people would click on the landing page to see the image. And then at that point, I have a button saying, will you commit to backing on day 1? And so people would then go to do that. So not only are they going to a website, but then they're clicking to commit to something. So it's like a double engagement to really get them motivated and get them excited about it. And that will help them to remember that they're actually interested in doing this when the time comes.
So right off the bat, you're just asking them, will you commit to my funding? Now, Caitlin, I know you had a question about that. About asking fans outright about funding.
Oh, yeah. So like my whole thing that I feel like a lot of people might have an angst against, like the whole asking for money, right? But with the Kickstarter, it's you're not just like knocking on a door. Can I have $5, please? It's a totally different beast. So, kind of wanted to touch on that mental stigma that a lot of us might have with asking even beyond friends and family. Hey, I have this project. Do you want to support it? Thoughts on that?
I love it. I was interviewing a guy today who on my channel. And he's got a art book. He's an artist first, and he does beautiful fantasy drawings. I'm gonna start promoting him. I might even use him for book covers. He's really good in that classic 60s 70s style that you'd find on Baen books or I guess Baen wasn't around back then. Ace books or anything like that. And he actually said, I've been going around and I've been personally sending emails to every single person on my contact list. And for the most part, doing that actually nets a pretty good response. Now you have to be pretty brave to do that. I mean, I'm not that brave to do that. I like my very impersonal email flood to my list, and so I haven't really been asking people directly to back. Maybe when my first novel came out, I did, but it is a good strategy because the conversion rate on that is very high. Because if somebody's directly interacting with you and it's a one-on-one thing and it's not a spam, it's a personal message. That feels a lot better as somebody on the other side. He said he's definitely had a reaction with somebody who, let him have it and say, you shouldn't be doing this. This is terrible, by one person. But he says it's actually done very well for him. And this is his first Kickstarter. He's never done anything like this before. He's been making, I think he's at $8,300 on his right now. So pretty solid tactic to do that. You have to have the gumption to be able to do that. And I'm not sure that's for everybody, especially as authors tend to be a little more introverted there.
Yeah, and I guess you can kind of put the shoe on the other foot too. Like think about a friend if your best friend came up to you and said, hey, I'm thinking about writing a book, or I'm thinking about starting an enterprise, I'm thinking about trying something new. And you talk to that person, you came to understand that they needed help funding it. You would want to help, right? You'd want to be a part of that. You'd want to give your friend a hand. You wouldn't go, oh, this is strange that you're asking me. So, as authors, sometimes we can feel like it might be hard to approach someone else, but just putting the shoe on the other foot, thinking about your friend, you would want to help. So go ahead.
Definitely. I think it gets harder as you go along with this as a business. Obviously my family members and all that, when I came out with my first novel, were super excited, and they went to Amazon, they picked up copies, they had me over to sign it. And then when I came out with my 8th book, I don't think a single one of them bought it at that point.
Just like, oh, this again.
Yeah.
But I do want to add, oh God, did I just lose the thought? That with the Kickstarter, a lot of people, especially like our friends and family, were saying, hey, I'm going to be writing this book and publishing it, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And they look at us like, and how are you going to pay your bills? But the Kickstarter kind of gives you a way to show that this is everything that's involved. This is, costs that I need for editing. This is costs that I need for proofing. This is costs that I need for the covers. And things like it gives the meat to, I'm going to be an author, writer type stigma, I guess. So people can really see and understand, oh, so yeah, I guess you don't have $1,500 lying around to publish this one book and then wait 3 months before you even make your first dollar situation. So
yeah, that's rough on Amazon. I poured, so I got my first book bub last month, for those who might've been following along in the forum where I was gladly talking about this. And by the way, join the Keystroke Medium Facebook group if you haven't already. I'll show up for you guys. Cool. And I put so much money into that book bub by itself, but then I also poured a couple $100 into Amazon ads and a couple $100 into Facebook ads to really make that cook and maximize it. So, I ended up spending over $1,000 on just advertising last month. And I know from my sales stats that I made way more than that back, but I'm not going to see it till like October. So it's going to be pretty rough.
And how would you know, like, which stream brought you those sales?
Well, Amazon ads tell you roughly what the rate is there, right? But I obviously knew it was from BookBub because I got such a huge spike when it happened that it was very abnormal. It's from the combo. Facebook's really hard to track, so I hate dumping money into Facebook. This is actually the first Kickstarter campaign where I have not used Facebook ads at all. Usually I put about $50 into the first 3 or 4 days and try to get things going. But I didn't do it this time because I just wasn't sure whether it was actually doing any good or converting any potential sales, and I just don't want to throw money down a funnel like that. But BookBub definitely was happening, and since I had my book free, I knew I could get some downloads from Facebook at the very least, and then your hope is, of course, that they'll convert to the later books. So it's a different business model. But yeah, Kickstarter is great because you can do it and get your money at the end of 30 days. Now, here's the tough part. I would recommend having your cover done first because I think the visual is everything on Kickstarter. People look at something, they say, oh, this is pretty, I'm going for it. Like the guy I was talking to today with his art book, because his art is so beautiful, I'm backing it and my audience was backing it. I probably sold him 5 books today just on YouTube by itself. And if he didn't have that up there and said, I just want to commission some art and do an art book and I this is my idea, and it was just text, I don't think he'd be anywhere where he's at. So you do still have to have that upfront cost, at least on that. But you could probably say, hey, I need money to edit this book, and I'm not going to, and then have that money go towards editing the book after you actually get the money. So there are some costs you can defer, but you can't defer everything.
Okay, so you were using Facebook ads, you were using Amazon ads, well, not Facebook ads this one time, but in the past you had the book. Mm-hmm. And then I follow you on Twitter, and you're very active on Twitter. You're updating your story constantly about your campaign, so I could keep track of how your campaign was doing just by checking in on Twitter. A lot of us don't understand Twitter at all. We're like, sure. What's more besides complaining or something? I don't know, but you're using Twitter very well. It seems to be working well for you. How does it become a part of your Kickstarter?
I'll tell you how Twitter converts directly from my link scores because Kickstarter tracks everything. Twitter is my second highest referrer right now and has made me $1,600 over the course of my project so far. So it's about 15 to 20% of my sales, right? And so I've definitely leveraged that well. I built a big brand on Twitter. I'm almost 6,000 followers, and I've done that over years. So I mean, I've built up by, and I do it by being funny. So what happens is people engage with my funny posts. I say funny things. People laugh. They show up. They retweet it because it's funny, and then their friends come in and add to me, and then I hit them with my book advertisement after I've gotten a bunch of engagement with my funny posts. So that's just my personality. I like being funny, so that's how I can do things. But I've seen lots of authors do things with different engagement ways to talk about readers. If you post geeky things, if you're a sci-fi person, you can get the same impact. Or if you post a way to get engagement again is to post questions. So you post to your followers, what's your favorite Star Wars character, and everybody will come on. I could post to Facebook right now and get 100 answers from people, and my engagement would be way higher than anything else because people like to give their opinion on the internet, believe it or not. And so no way. So that's a good way to get engagement with people. And then what happens is their friends end up seeing the post and chiming in, and you can gain followers that way also. So that's my basic strategy in doing that. But once the campaign's up and I have this following, which I do, a lot of authors make the mistake of posting once and then going. They try to go, okay, I'm going to post my book. It's a new release or a new Kickstarter or whatever. And I posted up, guys, here you go. Here's the deal. People go on the internet at different times in the day. People see different things on their feed. Sometimes Twitter hides things. I know I've been shadow banned a couple times. And so you don't get things seen unless somebody else retweets it or unless that person happened to be looking at the computer when that was scrolling past their feed. And so you got to be careful about that. If I post something, I assume maybe 30, 40 people see it at a time of my 6,000 followers even. And so I try to make sure I post my link multiple times throughout the day. And I actually try to time it for different times when people are looking. Like 9 o'clock a.m. on my time, Pacific time, is 12 p.m. Eastern, which is most people's lunch breaks. So I want to make sure I'm posting my book link during their lunch break at some point so they see that. Again, at 12 p.m. on my lunch break, I try to do the same thing. And then at 2 p.m. when East Coast gets off work, same thing. And then at 5 p.m. when I get off work, same thing. And that's a way to make sure that people see it. Now, you got to be careful on this because if you just post your link, I know a lot of accounts that do this too. I know a very big author who I've followed for a long time, a writer who I adore, who I'm not going to name, who just does this a lot and only posts those links. And what happens is you get zero engagement because you're just spamming. And once you just spam, the algorithm of these sites knows that you're just spamming. And so they actually don't show it on people's feeds because of that. And that's why it's important to actually post other things like a funny meme or a funny statement or something witty in between so that people engage with you, so that you try to get the engagement there so that your other stuff also gets seen. It's a fine line and a fine balance. And I think probably when I'm excited about a Kickstarter like now, I go a little too far on the promotional end. And then when I'm not selling things like immediately, I'm probably a little too far on the other end. But if you're disciplined about it and you kind of keep a 50-50 ratio, or maybe even like a 60% funny, 40% spam ratio, you'll be in good shape there.
Yeah, well, I noticed that with your jokes or with your spam, it's all team oriented.
I try.
Your Twitter, like you're reaching for people to kind of join your side, whatever side that is, but join your side. Check out your Kickstarter because that's what it means to be part of the Jon Del Arroz team.
Yeah, the team right now is Indie Comics. And if you want to have a real alternative to Marvel and DC, who crowd the stores with their monopolies and make it impossible for indie authors and indies to get into the stores or have any sort of good time, you need to back Flying Sparks. And that's my message. And that's a message that appeals to a lot of people who would be interested in indie comics. Because chances are, if somebody's reading indie comics, they're doing so because they love comics and they really don't like what those two large companies are putting out. It's same thing as indie books, with the way things go. So you give that team mentality, and it definitely works. Now here's the kicker I'll say on things like this, because it sounds a little cold and calculating to say stuff like that. I firmly believe in the team. I am 100% for the team, and when I see other people trying to do stuff for the team, I back their books. I try to promote them on my Twitter and on my streams and things like that, because I firmly want this team, this indie author community, to really rise up and to really be together and really make money together. That's important to me. And so it comes off as authentic because it is authentic. So when you do those kind of messagings, make sure you really believe it, I think is the most important thing there.
You know, that is definitely pulling back from one of our earlier shows. You know, when you are on social media, because it is like, honestly, like the number one way to get yourself out there. I mean, because you can't stand in the street, buy my book, right? You know, you got to type the things, post the stuff, is being you. Like, who are you? How do you want your readers to see you, you know, to know you? If you like guinea pigs, like one guy we all know, post up the guinea pigs, you know, and then throw in the links every now and then. If you like donuts, like another guy we know, get them donuts rolling, throw in some links. You know, it's definitely, yeah, like you're saying, it's that fine line. But if you walk it being authentic to you, you know, like I might post, there was this one time I had found a set of dishware that were in the shape of open books. Freaking, I want that plate set so bad. That would be something that I would, you know, post and be like, oh my God, could you imagine, you know, the magic coming off of eating from these plate books, you know, whatever. But it's like, it's that sort of thing that like comes from you to engage people. Like that's like 90% of everything. You got to engage people to you, and hopefully the rest works.
I think in direct sales terms too, making it a game for the people tuning in at home is fun. So you notice, you know, I mean, we hit that 10K number on the stream title here, right? And the reason is 10K sounds really interesting. And so, you know, I'm at 9807 right now. So just a couple more backers will get me there. And you say that, you say just a couple more backers will get me there. I'm at 198 backers. I want to get to that 200, which is true. I very much do right now, for those tuning in. You know, it's interesting, and you can be a part of something and be a part of hitting like a mini goal almost. And I do this with my Amazon books too. You know, when my book club was going, I think I was at like the number 3 overall book on Amazon in the free category. And so I'm like, guys, let's push this. Let's get to number 2. Let's get to number 2. I ended up at number 3. It's very hard to get to number 1 in all. I hit number 1 in sci-fi. But again, I hit these goals. It was like, we got to get number 1 in steampunk. And so that I hit that pretty quick. And then it's like, I got to get number 1 in all of sci-fi. So we hit that pretty quick. And then you make a game out of it. And then people want to tune in because it's interesting to watch how far it's going to go. And that's the same thing with Kickstarter. It's actually even more poignant on Kickstarter because you see actual money being tallied up at this point. And that's the big thing that I did this time, which I teased at the beginning of this, that I did with my prior backers. I told them, look, if I can fund this book on day 1, because I know who my backers are at this point, and I know the type of thing that's going to get them laughing and motivated. I said I would make a body pillow cover of my female main character. And I said, you know what? We'll get this created, and we'll have a body pillow of Metagirl that you can take home and cuddle with. And because most of my backers are big into anime and anime culture, and if you aren't familiar with anime culture, yes, lots of grown men make body pillows and have
there's
pictures of anime girls on them.
Look like their favorite person.
Yeah. Some of them even marry their body pillows. And so it's a thing. And it, you know, a lot of it is making fun of the thing. So it's become bigger than it probably actually is. But my audience found that hilarious. And not only that, but my audience wanted to force me to actually go through with making this product, which, you know, I assumed we would not get there, to be honest.
That is hilarious. Oh, you're going to give us a body? Now you have to do it.
Now you have to do it. Well, yes. So I was trolling my audience into making them excited about this. And it turns out they were interested in trolling me enough that they made sure they made it happen.
Wow.
probably like the epitome of
Epitome.
engaging with your audience, that they love you and your work so much that we're like, yeah, we're going to get him. He says he's going to make a body pillow. Going to make sure he makes that damn body pillow. That is awesome.
So super embarrassing. I have the preliminary art design, so we're going to be posting that pretty shortly here, and then we'll see if we'll see if any of my audience members actually buy it. In which case, I'm totally going to judge them if they do. So.
So I'm hearing for marketing on Kickstarter, but marketing in general, that gamify it if you can.
Make it fun.
Make it fun. Be yourself, be genuine, and also to tell a good story, right? Your book that you're trying to sell, your campaign that you're trying to sell, you had it enmeshed in this like larger story about the indie author world, you know, where you are the hero and you're on this journey with other heroes, kind of like we're on a journey together, right? Against a villain, and you know, join me in the campaign to fight off this villain. We're
Disney
sellers, right? You're selling a story, but you're also selling a story. You're selling a story to sell a story. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
You like need to put in like a tiny little Easter egg on just like some random page in the comic book. Someone's reading something and it's like a book page, right? The cover is, you know, defeating the DC Marvel universe, the indies, right? Anyway.
I totally also used Brian Meeks's mastering Amazon blurbs style of copywriting in the Kickstarter description. Yes, that's the other thing I did. So thank you, Brian Meeks. You're rocking it for me. So that's the other point. You do got to sell a book too. So all this stuff is fun with body pillows and all that. But if there's not a character that somebody's going to attach to and actually be interested in Metagirl as a character, well then it's not going to get very far. So I've been able to get, of course, I've got 2 books prior to this of track record with this character. So I've got a lot of return people who enjoyed my first 2 books, which is helpful. But yeah, I definitely use that, the blurb writing and use it in everything I do now. Brian Meeks' book really changed my life.
Message that I don't do that I'm not freaking extra space, make it fancy.
Extra space, no big blocks of text, just bullet point, make them keep reading down, and so my style in the Kickstarter, because it's a little bit formatted different, is to have the hook, describe what it is real quick, give the really quick synopsis in like I used 3 sentences it looks like. Then I gave a little social proof that I'm a #1 best-selling author and I have several Kickstarters under my belt. And my artist was a professional author who worked for IDW. He did Green Hornet and Deja Thoris of Mars, so he's a big hitter too. Then I gave social proof of comicbookresources.com, said Flying Sparks is the stuff that made me fall in love with early Marvel comics. And that's a big social proof. So if you get a blurb like that, that's pretty huge, I think. And then it's just trying to get somebody to read down to where they see the art. And then I just hope the art sells itself because the art's so pretty. And that's my goal with the Kickstarter description there.
So mentioning Kickstarter and your layout for the Kickstarter, we want to do a screen share of that and kind of go through how you put it together so people can really visualize and see what it is this whole thing is about. But first, we're going to take a small break. As soon as I find where I need to be breaking, there you are, for our show sponsor tonight, which is brought to you by Flight of the Reaper, an intergalactic space opera adventure, The Last Reaper, Book 5, by Scott Moon and J.N. Chaney. The fight has just begun. When Halek Cain and his wildly talented crew of runaways, rogue scientists, and rebel commandos arrive in system to save a ship of political refugees, they quickly realize things are not as they seem. The system is full of derelict ships from ancient battles. It's a gold mine of history, resources, and old technology. But where did these ships come from? And what exactly caused such a battlefield in the first place? Cain must search for answers while evading and combating his enemies, all while protecting those who are closest to him. As the Last Reaper will soon discover, sometimes You need to risk everything to survive. The Doom! And that was for Josh. Click! Buy now! All the amazingness. And the link dropness. Ooh. I love doing those, in case y'all didn't notice.
Yay. Thank you, Kayleen. That was awesome and a lot of fun.
Alrighty. So, Kickstarter and the way in which it works. Let me get my screeny here shared because I do have it ready to go. Boom! There it is.
Wow, so pretty. Very nice.
So here, oh, wait, okay.
There we go.
Where did it go?
She's breaking through the glass at the audience. We've got this awesome.
Yeah. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the whole image. This is just my kind of cover image. Now, Kickstarter recommends making a video and putting a video there. I highly recommend doing that. I was just getting very sick, actually, the week where I launched this. And so I could barely talk and I just didn't want to do it. And so I did not make a video. But I highly recommend making a video. But that's part of the cover image. I love to go off about this cover image because my artist did such an amazing job. But if you scroll down, you can see the full image. That's just a partial. So mainly it's trying to get you to read far enough to see this whole image. And this is so cool. So one, he did a different color palette than he's typically done. And I've gotten so into these color palettes and stuff like that, where if you notice the blue and her purple pop so much more than the background colors, which are really muted. So it really forces you to focus on her a lot more. And that really emphasizes the fact that she's about to punch you in the face, which is great. And then he's also got these little, he's got a Photoshop effect around the corner that are like little motion lines almost that blurs everything. And that also adds to the fact that she's flying into your face after she's punched through this window. So yeah, it's a really cool cover design. The concept was me. I said, I want my girl punching through a window in a skyscraper. So she's going to fight the villain. And so I came up with that idea in general, but my color artist really was the guy who made this pop and makes it the next level here. So Brett R. Smith is the guy who did that. He used to work on G.I. Joe and Wolverine. So he really knows what he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that picture. And then right at the top, it's telling a whole story. Flying sparks, flying.
That's the deal.
What if Romeo and Juliet were superheroes and villains? Just that one line tells you what the whole plot and concept of the book is right off the bat, and it intrigues you. It's a hook.
Yeah, and so I moved it. So if you see fully funded in one day in all caps at the top there,
there you go. Great.
that exists. So that was obviously not there before I fully funded in one day. So it started with just the hook originally. But once you are fully funded one day, I definitely want to brag about it to the Kickstarter audience to let them know, gosh, everybody on Kickstarter loves this, so you should love this too. And I think that's actually more important than anything else on there. I'm a big believer in social proof for marketing. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew that happened, and then go into the hook. So there's the hook. If Romeo and Juliet had superpowers, okay, you're going to read the next line. What's going to happen? Would they choose to stay together? Oh my gosh. Well, this is interesting. And so then I talk about what the product is, and then I actually go to the description. I don't know if I should talk about what the product is. That is maybe, I don't know. I think I should tell people what they're getting. So I tell them it's a 72-page book, which is pretty good. Most Kickstarter comics are around 22 pages. So it's about 3 times what somebody usually would get, but I also have a higher price point than a lot of people. So I want to let them know that it's a full graphic novel that they're getting, because that will help them with it. And I want to mention that I sold over 2,000 copies of the first book to date, which is more social proof that people are loving this book. That's a very high number for comics in general. And then I go into the description of what's going on, and I use the little one-liner sentences there as just hook. And then just trying to get people to scroll down to the art here, basically.
So I do want to add, you had mentioned this fully funded line wasn't there when you first posted it. So right. Kickstarter, it's not a static thing. It's something that you are continuously working on and working towards to keep the hype up. And I do want to touch on these pledges that are on the side, because that is like the number one thing where like the asking for money is coming from. You're not just asking for money. You are saying, hey, if you give, then you can receive this.
Correct.
And so it becomes more of a definite reader and fan centric thing. Like, oh my gosh, I can get that exclusive thing with the book I love, right?
Yep. And more
I had a
products. It
question
just
in there.
depends.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So you notice I've got a $1 on there, and $1 is just like, thank you for backing. Always put a $1 on there because some people will just drive by Kickstarters and just give $1 just to add to your backer count. You might as well get it a free $1. That's the way I see it. That means they aren't interested in the product, maybe, but at least they want to throw that in there. So I do that. I try to have a $5 option just because that's an impulse buy level. I didn't do that this time. I did it last time where I just was like, check out the book and get the first 22 pages. But I was like, at this point, I'm just like, I'm in volume 3. So it's like, you might as well buy volume 1 if you're going to do it. And so I put that, and I think a $10 for a digital volume 1 is pretty cheap as far as comics go. If you get a digital comic, usually they're $4 for 20 pages. So you'd be paying $12 for 60 pages. So this is better value than you're going to get from most mainstream comic outlets. And so I figured leading with that was better. And it's also a little more confident saying, you know what, just buy the book. Don't buy a partial point of the book. And that's a change I did from last time around. And I don't know if this was still just volume 1 or 2, I probably would have that little lead in still to try to convert customers later. But at this point, like with a volume 3 and then volume 4, I mean, the tiers are just going to get more expensive to buy in for new people. So it's like buy book 1 to check it out if you want to check it out. And that's where I moved with it.
So for that pledge, you have buying the digital version of the book. How do you deliver the digital version to the Kickstarter backer?
There is, you can do it in multiple ways. Kickstarter collects the email addresses, and you could email it out or however you feel like doing it. I use a site called BackerKit, which is a third-party site, and BackerKit recollects all the information, takes them to another store afterwards, so it gives them a chance to buy more things at checkout. And then they submit their information, and you can just upload all your files there, so they can just click and download. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's easy. So what BackerKit? How much does that cost?
BackerKit, I believe, is they take, I don't remember. It's like 2% of the gross or something like that. And I think there's a minimum fee, but it's something like that. So yeah, it's a little extra on top of it. And then they have, like I said, they organize everything. So it's like you see, I have a bunch of different pledge levels. If I'm shipping stuff out, I need to really have them organized in different spreadsheets and all that. They do that for me, which is nice. And then delivers the digital content for me. And also, like I said, it takes everybody to another pre-order store afterwards. So after they've already pledged, maybe a month ago, maybe they realized, oh, I bought book 1. I also want book 2 and 3. And they can click and buy that and like add it on in the checkout. So it does add that. I made about an extra $3,000 on my BackerKit last time. So it was totally worth it on that end.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think pledges is one of the things that's stopped me from thinking about Kickstarter too hard. Is because first of all, well, what would my pledges even be in the first place? And then second of all, how could I possibly organize this and deliver it? So it sounds like BackerKit would help me to organize these ideas and get them all in one spot and get them delivered.
Definitely.
Okay, I just want to say I saw your last pledge because I had to scroll down. For us authors, that's a freaking awesome pledge. Become a character. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, and so I was the first couple because I had all the art done for the first couple ahead of time. And so I had name a character because I could just change the name real quick. And I had that at 250, so a little bit lower. But now that I am in a spot where I can actually give people more art, I actually put be a character, and that way I can actually put you into the book and draw you into the book. I have a Patreon subscriber who has been with me for 3 years, and he's been at a very high level for those 3 years and given me a lot of money over the years. So it's like I drew him into the book. Like, so I love doing that for my top audience, because I just think that's a nice thing to do. And especially like immortalizing somebody in art is almost even cooler than Tuckerizing somebody with a name. So it's a nice thing. And as you can see, somebody grabbed it this time, and I've got he gave me an interesting challenge for what he wants, and I'm gonna try my best.
Wow. Have you ever done a cameo appearance in any of your books?
I have my next one that I'm going to be doing in, I think, November-ish. My artist drew me in. I didn't tell him to. He told me, he just drew it in, and then I saw it after he drew it, and I was like, dang you for doing that. But that's my only one I've done. I try not to do my own books like that, because I just feel like putting yourself in your own books is kind of a no-no, I guess. I don't know.
So you're like the Stan Lee of graphic novels.
Yeah, I call myself the Hispanic Stan Lee now.
Hispanic Stan Lee, yeah.
See, and this is like with the Kickstarter, it's also a great way to showcase, what's going on with your novel. It's a great way to put, like, for fantasy authors, those great maps that you might be commissioning to be created. Especially as you're being backed, you can show those. You can up the ante, as it were. Hey, we got to the 1K mark. If we hit 2K, then I'm going to add this for you guys, sort of a thing. Can you go into explaining, like, sort of like,
they call them stretch goals. So you got your goal to fund the book, which makes the book happen, and then you can just make the book cooler because we're getting more money. So I think you guys scroll down a little bit to get to mine here. I think still a lot. So I have all my text after the art. So if somebody's really interested and really wants to read, they can read all this stuff. So here's all the stretch goals. The first one, I add 3 pinups basically to the book, and I do this for all my books, and I do it at 7,500. So I try to make them progressively more interesting as they get along, because if I'm making tons of money, I figure I should give people tons of value. So adding 3 pinups is pretty good value for the book. I like to hit that, and I want to make sure that happens every time. That's why I put it first. The second one, I also want to make sure happens every time. So at 10K, which we are still $193 away from, we got a backer over the course of the stream. Thank you if somebody did so in the chat there. I appreciate it. And this is for back cover art. And my first book, I just had text where I was describing the story. And then I did back cover art on my second one because of a stretch goal. And I like it. I like having art all the way around. I think it just looks prettier. So I want to do that this time. I don't remember what my 15 is, and I can't read it on the screen. Let me try to pull up pull it up on my end. So I get progressively more. I also do like little side things with my audience that I don't put on Kickstarter. We talked about the body pillow. I put that all over my blog and my mailing list and on Twitter. I did not put that on the Kickstarter proper because I figured I might scare away normal people with that.
Only those on the super in crowd.
In the in crowd.
Super secret.
And that further engages the audience because they're in a super secret in crowd too, right? And I love giving people a part of the in crowd, especially if you're on the team, right? So at 10,000, I'm also doing a goal. There's my friend's got a book on Indiegogo right now called Black Hops. It's about a secret agent bunny who it's Black Ops, but Black Hops. Yes.
Black Ops.
And so I said, you know what? If we both reach $10,000, we'll do a I'll have him draw a parody one pager on my book too. So both these campaigns have to take $10,000 for it to happen. And he's going to do flying sharks instead of flying sparks. And so that's he likes animals, and it's a nice punny name. So that's I like doing these secret stretch goals like this too, where that happens. And so, like I said, I just try to make a game out of everything and make everything more interesting and more valuable as it goes along. $15,000. I have another one of my favorite artists doing a pinup for us. Bookmarks, which I've never done bookmarks before, so that'll be interesting at 17,500 if we can hit that. And then at 20,000, I'm saying I'm going to draw a whole new comic of this to tie in. And I've got an idea for this, and I've got it all scripted out, but I'm not telling people what it is because I really wanted to hit that $20,000. And so if you want to know what it is, you got to get me there. All right. Then I got character bios, and it just gets progressively interesting. And I figure I put them all the way up. A lot of people don't do this. They kind of limp them along, or they reveal new ones as they go along. Whatever your strategy is, can be fun for your backers. I put them all the way up, and I say, look, I have big dreams and big designs, and it's for more than just comics. So I've got a radio drama. I've scripted a radio drama where I'd like to have voice actors do an old time radio drama with my superheroes, because that was really big in the 40s and 50s, and I'd love to get something like that going for this. At 70,000, we've got a beautiful cosplayer gal who will design a Metagirl costume and then do a photo shoot with it. And then at $100,000, we'll straight up do a web series of YouTube videos. And I wrote a bunch of YouTube scripts that tie into this and all that, to have an actress dress up like that, like the gal, and do that. And so I have big designs for this universe and much bigger artistic visions than just doing comic books. And I want to make my audience aware that, like, really, I mean, if you help me push this, we can make stuff happen that's going to be even bigger. And that's, as this goes along and as these years go along with this stuff, I'm hoping the audience grows and we can grow into this sort of stuff so that we can really do some awesome things that other people aren't doing.
Now, question about these stretch goals.
Yeah.
If you reach $40,000, are you doing the $40,000 stretch goal, or are you doing the $40,000 stretch goal and all those stretch goals leading up to it?
And all of them. Yeah.
So, deliver everything you promise.
Correct. It just compounds.
How can we possibly pull all of that with that budget?
Because the budget's actually not that bad. What's 40? I make a new variant cover. So that's one cover, I mean, that's $500-600 at $40,000. I mean, I'm happy to spend $500-600 on that.
That's also going to help, with these ones, in the $70,000 and $100,000 mark to make those happen, right? Because you save on essentially cover, but that's going to help to pay for actors. And
my all-in cost book for real. The real cost of this to produce is going to be about $12,000. And I'm very open about this. And I set the goal at $6,000, not because it means anything, but because it's high enough that it feels like it's a real value point, but it's low enough that I know I can hit it quickly, and then I can go online and advertise and brag about the success. So I will make the book at $6,000. That's fine. But yeah, my art costs about a little under $10,000, and then fulfilling it'll cost about $2,000 or $3,000. So it's going to be in there to print the books and then ship them and all that, right? So those are the real costs. So as each of these go higher, I mean, my only incremental costs at that point are not new art costs, really. I mean, I've got a few things here, like with character bios or whatever, but it's just extra books. So I'll be, every $10,000 is another $2,000. So I've got another $8,000 to play with at that point for each $10,000. So as it goes up, you want to make sure your rewards aren't going to break your bank, obviously. But as it goes up, I'm able to do the compounding new cool things because I've got a lot more to play with, and that's the thought there.
So definitely think about what it is, your initial costs. What is it going to cost you for that cover, for that editing? What do you realistically want to pay for potential advertising, things like that? And as you're adding these stretch goals, what is that going to do on your time? If you promise something and then, it's 6 months later, people haven't gotten whatever it is that you promise, they might not back you for another one. So definitely make sure that those stretch goals and the initial pledges that you put on there are definitely something that you that you can accomplish, do, and fulfill.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know there's a lot of Kickstarters out there that have problems with that afterwards. And it's a bad look, and it's part of being a repeat Kickstarter. It makes it easier because everybody who's backed me before say, look, Jon's always come out with his stuff on time. And most Kickstarter things don't come up with their stuff on time. I mean, so Jon's better in that regard. And when I have people able to say that, and they give that message out, that's such a huge thing for getting people who might be hesitant willing to check this out. It's the most useful thing you possibly have. So always deliver what you say you're going to deliver. It's always a big deal.
Now, you said this is your most successful campaign so far. Do you think you're just kind of hitting your stride with this campaign, or do you think Kickstarter is becoming more relevant, a stronger tool in 2019 and then in 2020?
I think the Kickstarter bubble's already kind of burst. I think it was probably biggest, probably 2016, 2015. But I think I've been producing these enough that, people know where to find it. People are following me on there now. When they see it, people know that they're going to get something on there. So I just have a track record at this point. It's like Amazon books, right? When I had my first book out, it took a while for people to check it out. Once I got my first whole series out, it was a lot easier to get people to check it out. And then as things progress, I'm going to launch my new series next week on Amazon. And that's I think I'll have a lot more repeat customers because they know I've already delivered pretty good books. And my next one will probably be even better. And that's what you got to do. You got to keep delivering better product each time you go out there. And that's a big thing right here. Cross-promoting, guys. This is going to be interesting. So this is going to be the first test because this will be the first time I release a book on Amazon while I've got a Kickstarter going. So Kickstarter allows you to do update posts. So next week when I launch my book, I'm going to make a post on my Kickstarter to my captive audience who already gives me money saying, hey, I've got a new book out on Amazon. You might want to check it out. And I will see how that impacts my sales. So this should be a good audience who already is interested in giving me money. So it should be pretty easy to mine. But of course, because it's comics versus books, it might not cross over all the way. So that'll be an interesting marketing test right there. But I'm gonna do it for the first time next week.
So what's the book that's coming out on Amazon as opposed to Flying Sparks?
It's called Justified: Saga of the Nano Templar. It's a military science fiction about a man who has to use his faith in order to save a planet. Yeah.
Wow. So it could be the same people who are interested in Flying Sparks that are interested in this Templar book, but they're very different genres.
It could be, but superheroes and dudes fighting with laser swords and sci-fi. It's Star Wars versus Spider-Man. I think there's a lot of overlap there, right? So
there is, totally. That's really cool. All right. So we've talked about the pledge ideas. We've talked about stretch goals. Back with that Kickstarter, Keeleen, earlier you said that one of the cool things about Kickstarter is it shows your audience what building a book actually looks like or what the costs are, and it kind of lays it all out. Let's see how Jon did that.
I don't think I did. A lot of people do, though.
I just think, especially for authors, especially for ones, you're telling your family, hey, I'm writing this book, I'm going to self-publish it, and, I'm going to need to get this cover, and I'm going to have editing, and they're just kind of staring blankly, what are you talking about?
Definitely. You can lay it all out there, and I think that is an effective tool. I didn't do it because, like I said, I'm just taking pre-orders on mine at this point. It's book 4 of mine on here. But yeah, especially if you're the first time and you're trying to get people to check out your book, say, look, my cover costs $800. I want Lauren to edit my book. That's going to cost $800. And then I need a proofreader on top of that. That costs $800. So I'm going to be $2,500 into my book, and I need to do this to make my book. And I think that's a compelling reason to back somebody.
You had a really short section. It said the money, and then it had one sentence. But I think that's all.
Did I?
It's just proof that this is a real thing, that that their money is going to help something that's valuable and that does cost something. You don't just pull it out of thin air to make a book.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Looking at our lovely stream of questions we've got going on, trying to figure out which ones we've already answered, which ones we might want to ask. Where
do you get images from if you're not a graphic novelist?
Where do I get images from?
Right. Most of us, we're just novelists and we have a cover, so that's one image. But if we're asking ourselves, how can I be successful on Kickstarter without any images? Like,
when I made my first book, which was actually the third book I released, The Stars Entwined. I actually went to an artist and I said, "Hey, will you do some sketches of my main characters so I can visualize them better?" And I had him do that. I think it was just pencil sketches. I think he charged me $50 and he did my 4 characters or something like that. It was not too bad. And I had that, and it helped me describe my characters for one, and helped me just like think about them more tangibly for two. But you put stuff like that up on a Kickstarter and you show the characters and be like, this is Betty, or whoever. Those are compelling images for people to actually connect with the characters too.
Yeah, and that doesn't cost too much. So $50 can go a long way into helping you with your creative process and also to reach out to the audience. I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can also do like the maps. I know a lot of the military sci-fi authors out there like to draw up their schematics for battles.
Yeah, it's cool.
You could put your freaking napkin sketch up there and be like, let's make this happen, man. See who wins.
And then I have one last question. So you have a very specific audience in mind. You're probably looking for young men, maybe in their 20s, 30s, 40s, who love villains, who love heroes, who love anime. You've got a particular person in mind, and that's the group that you're going for. You're gamifying your Kickstarter campaign. So you're definitely, you've got the waifu, you've got everything. You're really you've got Twitter. Everything you're doing is geared towards that particular audience that you're looking for. How can an author who's new to branding, who's new to targeting an audience, how can they figure out who their audience is that they ought to be thinking about?
That's tough. And I think it takes time and repetition. So you try out a couple things, you see what works, you see what don't. You fail fast if you don't find your audience. And you succeed and you do find your audience, you kind of see what they like. And it's really trial and error. I don't think there's a way to do it beyond that unless you have just like a very, very specific vision for what you want to do from the get-go. And if you do, God bless you, that's amazing. I am all over the map. I write sci-fi, steampunk, superheroes. I'm sitting here and I'm talking to Lindsay Burker in DM going, I kind of want to write romance, like, and I do it under a pen name so I don't screw up my brand. But I do, like, I really want to. So you kind of, I don't know, I'd start by genre and then kind of break it down from there. And then there's a lot of overlap between things. But you'll find some things in common that somebody likes, like the body pillow waifu thing. And you'll find things that people don't like. There's a big thing about my brand. I always talk about baseball. I always wear a baseball hat in like everything I do. You always see me in a baseball hat. You see me posting pictures from baseball games constantly because I freaking love baseball. And my audience tunes out every single time I talk about baseball. So I know this to be a fact. So the smart business move would be to never talk about baseball. And I don't care, but some people might care.
So okay, well that's I mean that's a nice point to put it. I mean if you love whatever X thing it is and no one's ever engaging in it, maybe try something else.
If it's a business author profile, the smart thing to do, and I'm obviously not the smart person, would be to cut that out of your little author profile there. Yep.
I don't know. I think it's working. Baseball also has its heroes and villains. It's got its mythology. It's got its superstitions.
Having run a blog, I get about anywhere from 300 to 1,000 views a day on my blog. I used to write baseball blogs periodically and just talk about baseball. I mean, my readership on the baseball days would drop from like 300 clicks to like 10 clicks. Like it was that bad. Yeah.
Well, now you know you're baseball fans. You've got freaking 10 fans out there who agree with it, and they're just like,
that's right.
Thank you for remembering us, and that's why you do it.
Right. So you're basically trolling yourself and trolling your audience and trolling everyone with that.
No, I just want to do what I want to do. I don't, I don't know. That's all. I guess that's also part of my brand, right? I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and I'm an artist, right? I don't know. A lot of the, I guess a lot of the mentality around our book is right to market, right? Where you do the thing because it's military science fiction. You have Joe Space Marine, and he runs through his like 10-book series or whatever, and everybody loves it because Joe Space Marine. He's a Space Marine, and he's a damn good one too, right? And you know that trope, and you know everybody's gonna love it, and you know exactly the plot points of the story. I don't know. It just, that sort of thing doesn't do it for me. Like I can't do that. If I wanted to do something repetitive that like didn't have a lot of artistry to it, and people write those with artistry. I don't want to, and I read a lot of those books, so I'm not calling that out for any purpose. But if I wanted to do something like that was repetitive and like monotonous, and I couldn't go outside this box ever, I would just do my day job, because that's what that is. I want to do what I want to do. I want to make the art I want to make. I don't know if anybody wants a radio drama, for example, but I want to make a radio drama. It's like my bucket list to make a radio drama. I would love to make monthly radio dramas if I could. I don't know that there's any audience for that whatsoever, but it's my passion. So I want to be able to express myself. That's the whole point of this, I think. Right?
I could totally do an iTunes, weekly. And now, this week on Flying Sparks.
You're hired, Kayleen. You're going to be the narrator.
All right. Speaking of, in the beginning, I had this whole thing planned for like what we were up to. I know we're a little bit over right now, so I'm going to say it now. My co-writer and I were just like freaking going off on all the things, and it's amazing. It's awesome. So I wanted to say it's no longer a super secret spark. God damn it. Now I have flying sparks in my head. It's no longer a super secret project, because Bill Frisbee and I are creating a masterpiece, right? So some of you may have remembered maybe like 2-3 years ago, I came up with this random idea in a chat one day about My Little Pony Space Marines. Well, we have taken that idea and it has gone off to the stars in just like so many ways. There's like AIs, there is space pirates, there's all the stuff. There's just all these things, and people are going to die, and they're going to, anyway, it's great. And I'm excited. And yeah. And we're tentatively calling it, I'm going to say it because I freaking love it, but we keep going back and forth on the title, My Little Oorah. All right.
Cool.
So I've been dying to say that all week. So.
Book one's in progress.
Book one is in progress. We are actually building a 9-book. So we're splitting it into 3-book arcs over one arc. So hopefully people love it, and then we can continue.
I can't wait to see this. This is going to be awesome.
Super excited. And he's fucking killing it, man.
He's a great writer. I've read some of his stuff. Cool.
Yeah, he's freaking, he's going for it. So I'm super excited. And yeah. Yay! So yes, you can talk about it now, Bill. Okay. Anyway, so back to you, our lovely guest. Before we say goodbye, I just want to say thank you again to our show sponsor, Flight of the Reaper by JN. Is it JN? Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Chaney. That's all I know you by. JN. Yes, JN Chaney. Scott Moon. I have heard nothing but great things about this entire series. Book 5 has just come out, and people are already like, where's book 6? Seriously, Scott, finish writing it. So yeah, so thank you guys for sponsoring this lovely episode. And Jon, thank you for coming on. Can you tell our audience, remind them, I suppose, where they can find you and all of your great things as I knock things over on my desk?
I am everywhere. At least I try to be. So if you notice, I try to roll on different podcasts during the campaign because I like to do that. I'm also on YouTube, so you look me up, Jon Del Arroz. Subscribe to my YouTube. I have a lot of guests on, and we talk writing. We talk whatever I feel. Well, we end up talking whatever I feel like, because that's how it rolls. I am going to have these two wonderful ladies, Kayleen and Lauren, on towards the end of the month to promote Keystroke Medium, and so it'll be like a cross promotion thing. It's like a crossover, right? It's like a comic book crossover.
It's like the ultimate crossover.
The ultimate crossover. And so it's a lot of fun. We interview a lot of authors and comic people and different people who I find interesting. So I put my Kickstarter in the chat. That is my Flying Sparks Volume 1 through 3. That is what I'm out promoting now. 2 backers from 200. You can be the 200th backer, and I might do something special if we get 200 backers. I mean, I could think about that. So there's your game for the night. And tell your friends about it, please. That's the best part.
Super secret, super special potential thing for 200 backers. All right, guys.
And we're so close, 198.
You heard it here. You heard it here first. And thank you so much to our viewers, to our listeners, for joining us on your writer's journey as we take our writer's journey. Be sure to check back with us next week as we talk about more reading, writing, and everything in between, right here on Keystroke Mediums, The Writer's Journey. Good night, guys.
Night.